In the last video, you saw us bolt a supercharger kit onto my E92 M3, but all it did is ruin it. Even though when we started it up the first time, it sounded mint. She's running!
I'm not quite happy with that.
Then, every time we started it after that, it got progressively worse until it sounded like this.
But I'm not the sort of person that's going to give up that easily. I'm determined to finish this video with a working supercharged M3, especially after all of the hard work that me and Ethan have put into this car already. So we need to knuckle down and do some research and find out what could possibly be wrong with this car, because until we get to the bottom of this issue, this M3 is going nowhere.
So realistically, we need to fix all of the faults that we've now got on the E92 M3 before we can get it tuned. So we managed to get the faulty OBD port working temporarily with the OBD11 reader, and it came up with the code 27B0. And that comes to quite a few things which it could potentially be.
I've got the answer to the problem. Reliability. Fixed.
Wow. Once we've got this car reliably starting every single time and running up to temperature, we can send this car off for tuning, because we all want to hear how this supercharger is going to sound. That's it, it should start now. Definitely start now. So the first thing that I'm going to try is swapping out the battery. I know this might sound a bit nuts, but if there's one dead cell in the battery, apparently that can play havoc with, well, everything. So this battery has been dead. We don't know how long it's been sat in the salvage yard, so I just want to rule that out and make sure that's not going to be a problem. So I've picked up a new one from BMW, which costs the same as everywhere else, and let's put this in, get it coded into the car, and then that's that problem. If it is a problem, done.
So very quickly I can swap over the battery and code the new one in, but I'm not hopeful that this is going to fix my problem.
It's running better than it has before, but it's definitely still not right. Let's turn it off.
So I'm still scratching my head on what could be wrong with the M3. We've only got a vague fault code giving us no real indication as to what's wrong with it, and an intermittent, inconsistent running fault.
She's still not running right, but what do you do while you're waiting to get it working? You modify it. So we've got the guys here from Modstock who are going to be putting some test pipes on, and also their back box mod, which is not only going to make it sound better but also mean that when it comes to tuning we're not going to have any issues there.
So your 2.5 pipe and yeah, it's going to be loud and test pipes.
Okay, well I think the car suits it. A supercharged car, we've already gone and given up with the OEM side of things, so we may as well go a bit Asbo, and I think that's what it deserves. So the 2.5 should be loud but not ridiculous, and then the test pipes make it a little bit louder too. Oh, they look good, don't they? Little mod stock, I like it. Very nice. These guys also do resonated test pipes as well, but what we're going for is the standard version just because. So we need to get this car in the air, and then we can get underneath and start modifying this exhaust.
So the guys from Modstock can get underneath the car and start working on taking the old exhaust off by unplugging the lambda sensors and unbolting it from the car. And before I could even blink, they've got the centre section removed. And now that that's off, they get straight to work on removing the back box too. And it's a good job that we're doing this, because as you can see here, there is actually a crack in the old centre section of the exhaust. But luckily, that's exactly where we're cutting it to fit the new test pipe, so it won't be a problem.
So this is something we see really, really often.
Oh damn, yeah. Damn.
But it's nothing some nice shiny new clamps can't fix. But now it's time to look at the back box. This is the old one which came off the car, and we're going to be replacing this with Modstock's 2.5 pipe mod. Essentially these guys modify an original back box to make it sound better. I've gone for a 2.5 pipe mod, but you can go up to 4, and the more pipes you go for, the louder it is. But they've now got the test pipes fitted with the lambda sensors as well, and they can start bolting that back up to the car. Doing the test pipes is essential for what we're doing, because we've got to free up extra flow in the exhaust to allow for the extra power that the supercharger is going to make. And for me, modifying the rest of the exhaust is a must, because I want to hear that V8 scream. Now that Dean and Chris have got the centre section fitted, they can start fitting up the rear section and the back box as well.
the back box is now on, and you guys can't really see a difference, but one thing you are going to see a difference with is the tips. And we are going for, boom, the new F-Series style carbon M Performance tips, which look naughty. So we're going to have 4 of these poking out the back. They're going to be sat like that, so it looks like a wheelbarrow. And yeah, it should look pretty sick. So let's get those on.
And very kindly, the guys at Modstock have also offered to give you guys 5% off any modified original exhaust systems by using discount code SLIX5 when getting in touch with them via Instagram. All of their details are going to be in the description.
So the guys have just finished off on my exhaust, and unfortunately we can't hear it at this point because it's not running the best, but my mate has just had exactly the same back box mod, but minus the test pipe, so we can hear his instead. Damn! What's your thoughts?
Very good.
But as good as that sounds, it doesn't take away from the fact that the M3 is still broken, and I completely lost track of time modifying my car, meaning that I've actually missed my deadline to get this car working again. And as good as this exhaust looks, it just doesn't fix that. But the only hope we have is the fact that we've come to Reeve Performance to get this car tuned. And I'm praying that they can help us get to the bottom of this running problem before this car hits the dyno later today.
And we are now officially out of time. We're at our deadline where we need to get this car in for tuning, and Ethan from Stealth Movements has brought us down to Norwich, or is it Kings Lynn? Kings Lynn, with the M3 down to Reeve. So we can now get this car unloaded and hopefully get to the bottom of this running problem, and then we've got some serious work to get to on this car. Big East, if anyone wants a car moving, where do they go?
Stealth Movements,
and
mate.
How do they get in touch with you?
Instagram, Facebook, and there's a contact number, and all information's getting contact on there.
Is it all going to be in the description?
All in the description, my man.
Nice.
So we're tight on time with lots of work to do and also some faults to figure out.
Nice work, Heath. Smashing it.
And I'd be lying if I said at this point I wasn't worried, but something tells me when I walked into this place, my car was in the right hands. I've never even seen a supercharged M3 in the flesh before, and then coming down to Reeve and there being a workshop full of them just filled me with confidence that we might actually be able to get this fault fixed.
You don't sound healthy. It doesn't sound good, does it?
Sounds perfect.
So not only are we about to get our work inspected, we're about to be ripped to shreds.
Yeah, man.
So Mr. Aaron Reeve himself and his team set on my E92 M3 and started trying to find what this fault could be.
What's your first thoughts?
And very quickly they started to find quite a few things we did wrong installing this kit.
That should be behind that.
Okay, we got that wrong. We were trying, okay? We were working off 240p instructions. We may have wired this wrong as well. Yeah, it was guesswork, I can't lie.
It's the white wire with the red line.
Yes.
And then that, well, I would have earthed that there and then...
Well, that's why we're here. We've come to the pros for a reason. We gave it a good shot.
We gave it a go.
Left these spark plug covers off intentionally. Or
No, we just forgot to put them on and then couldn't get them in.
you can if you just cut a little square out.
Oh, okay.
Slide it back in.
Maybe that's a good idea. If you had to, on first glance, rate the install out of 10, what would you give it?
2.
Wow.
Maybe we didn't do as good a job as we first thought.
Have you found something?
There's no spark to any of these 4 cylinders at all. Looking at the live data, it's just shut off the spark completely. So it's either could be a wiring fault, can be a Vanos fault as well. But there's sometimes with these, with like Vanos faults and stuff, they'll go into limp mode, but they don't even know why. The ECU's on, sophisticated enough to know that.
But you are.
Yeah, well,
So using his wealth of knowledge, Aaron starts digging around in the engine bay, checking the spark plugs, checking all of the basic things that potentially could cause this fault. And it's something that none of us even predicted. It was something so obvious and in your face that it's almost daft.
Well, I think it's safe to say sometimes I do make stupid mistakes, and do you know what? It happens to the best of us. But the funny thing is, it didn't go like that when I pulled it out.
I told you to pack this in your suitcase.
So one of the coil packs is literally split in half. It didn't pull apart when I pulled it out, but I think that's pretty safe to say that's going to be our issue, isn't it?
I'd say so.
Yeah, so where's the bin? Yeet! Now that's sorted, hopefully, we can push forward, can't we?
Well, I just want to let you guys know that that is my side of the engine, and this is Chris's. And which side's the plug broke on?
I broke the coil pack, apparently. But if that's what we've found already with this car, I think it's only going to get worse from here.
Can't wait to see the rod bearing.
And it really was a silly little mistake. Sometimes it's so easy to miss something that's potentially so obvious, but something so small can cause big problems. So I'm glad we managed to find that, but now it's time to test it. And thank God it's all working fine now and the car is running on all cylinders.
Well, silly mistake.
Job done.
But easily found. They're the best sorts of mistakes because they're cheap and they're easily fixed. But there may be other problems as well. We have found one other thing as well. The tensioner looks like it's not working properly on the new belt, so we need to get a new tensioner on there to make sure the belt's not flapping around.
So now it's time to get the car up in the air and have an inspection underneath before we went on to the next job. And these guys are actually pretty impressed with the condition of this car, especially considering the mileage and how original everything looks on there as well.
How'd you get these from?
They are mod stock, so say what you want because apparently he's a friend of yours.
No, I'm just saying. Well,
Go on, say it.
And this next job is one that I needed to do.
Saying goodbye to £300 worth of oil.
Because E92 M3s have a common problem where the rod bearings wear excessively, which can cause catastrophic damage to the engine. And the first step to doing these is draining all of the oil out of the car, including out of the oil filter housing as well.
Right, some people in the comments were telling us that these bolts, well, we had bolts in our oil filter housing which weren't supposed to be there. Aaron, what do you say to those people in the comments?
They need to read the workshop manual.
Nice.
These bolts are all part of the pressure relief valve for the oil filter, so obviously they are meant to be in there. They are purposely not that somebody's randomly left some bolts in there.
So now it's time for the bit you lot have been nagging me about, and of course I was going to do it. If we're supercharging this car, it'd be daft not to, because we have no history on the car at all. So this is where we're going to start doing the rod bearings, and it's a common failure point on these cars supposedly, isn't it, Heath?
Yeah, clatter, clatter, bang, bang.
So we need to take off the subframe. We've also got some crusty power steering lines to change as well, so we're going to get those done at the same time because it makes sense. Subframe off, sump off, and let's inspect these bearings. God, he's rapid.
Because if these bearings went, it could cost me an absolute fortune, just like if you were buying a car that you didn't know had hidden history. But we nearly ended up with a crash damaged camera.
Techers.
That's why whenever you buy a used car, make sure to check it out on Car Vertical, because not every seller is 100% truthful and honest. And now all of the arms are disconnected, that means that we can start taking the weight to the engine. And whilst we're doing that, let's take a look at an example of a report that you wouldn't want to see when you're checking out a car. So you can see here, this F80 M3 has a green tick for mileage, finance, but an amber warning for damage. And as soon as you scroll down to the photos section, you can see exactly how badly it was damaged, with huge damage to the passenger side and all of the airbags going off. If we continue scrolling, we can see the car has never been stolen, and also all of the mileage checks out. And then, worst of all, if we go down again, we can see on the damage section that this vehicle has been marked as a category B write-off, meaning it can never go back on the road and is only useful for salvageable parts. But my favourite part of Car Vertical is the timeline they give you. We can see here when the car was made and when it was crashed only a year later, meaning this car hasn't been on the road for long. So to check out your car, a friend or family member's car, or a car that you're going to buy, make sure to do it with Car Vertical using discount code Chris to save some money.
And as predicted, this engine mount looks shot but stayed in one piece. This one has completely left the chat. It's gone in half, so that is why we replace them when the subframe comes off. Next thing to come, sump, after we've had a clean up down here.
So me and Ethan started removing all of the T30 bolts which hold the sump in place, and there is a lot of them, but after we got all of those out, it was ready to come off.
I'm gonna go.
Ready?
I've got it.
3, 1.
Down she comes.
Oh god.
Oh golly gosh. Oh, she drippy. Gloops.
Nectar.
And then the final thing to remove is the oil pickup pipes. So these obviously take oil from the sump and then pump it around the rest of the engine, but these need to come off so we can get to all of the bolts which we need to get to in order to change over these rod bearings.
So now we have done all of the legwork and we're going to leave the proper intricate stuff to the master, because I know for a fact I would mess this up. I would get this wrong somehow. I'd do something stupid. I don't think it's actually too hard, is it? It's pretty simple.
It's not that bad to do.
But if you get it wrong, you get it really wrong.
So Aaron delicately starts removing the end caps from the rods. And with precision like open heart surgery, he replaces those rod bearings, but something tells me that he's done this job so many times he could practically do it with his eyes closed.
No point crying over spilt tea.
Now, one of the things which makes this job take a while, apart from the fact you have to be meticulous, is that these new bolts need to be torqued and undone 3 times before they can be fastened up for the final time.
New bearings are in, but the question is, how bad were the old ones? Well, we're about to take a look and we're getting them all laid out here. Now, typically, the ones at the front of the engine are not as bad as the ones at the back. So here we go. This is for cylinder 1. Is that the right phrase for that?
Yeah. That's cylinder 1. So you've got the lower part of the bearing there, and then the upper part. The upper part, as you can see here, has obviously taken more of a wear. That's the part that's against the crankshaft and takes the main thrust of the crank. Obviously, as the crank goes up, the rod goes down, is taking the main loading of it. If we just go the other way to cylinder 7, you can see this bearing is severely quite worn. This is an LCI car, which has tin and aluminium bearings. BMW changed the material compound of it. Contrary to what people seem to believe on forums, BMW never improved the bearing design of these cars. Ever since they came out, the bearing clearance is exactly the same. The material changed, but that makes no odds.
But yeah, it just goes to show it's definitely worth doing these. I mean, it's a preventative thing, but we don't think that subframe's ever even been off that car, so
These are completely original.
they're the original bearings. So yeah, 120,000 miles, but I think it's not had a hard life, but they need changing. Any thoughts, Heath?
Wow.
So many facts here. This is intense.
So with the old rod bearings now removed, and I'm so glad we did this, even as a preventative measure, if we didn't do this, you can see how worn they are, and this could have caused irreparable damage to this engine. But we now have the new ones in, so all we've got left to do is reassemble the engine and the subframe, and then we can get this car on the dyno and get it tuned and hear that supercharger scream. So we can give the sump a good clean down in the parts washer, followed by a new sump gasket.
Sump bolted up, new rod bearings inside. Now what's it time for, Ethan? Pull-ups on my car apparently. So you'll tip the whole thing over, big boy. So now we need to get the subframe back on.
I think we should clean it.
But first, before we do that, we need new engine mounts, because the old ones, well, they're done.
Shoddy.
They were bad. But we don't want to go back to OEM. We're going to upgrade these for some lovely Powerflex ones, which are going to last forever
and ever.
So we have new Powerflex bushes to go in, and correct me if I'm wrong, but these holes here are for these pins, so we can adapt the stiffness of the bush depending on how many pins we put in.
Correct.
Pinch and roll.
So with the pins fitted and the subframe cleaned up where the old engine mounts were, we can now fit up these new nice Powerflex ones. It's just another job which makes sense to do while you're here, and these new Powerflex ones are going to last much longer than an OEM bush. And now those are in, we can fit up the subframe and steering rack again. And with that now refitted, we are finally getting somewhere. The subframe's on, the rod bearings are in, and everything is starting to slowly take shape. So we can now attach all of the arms and track rod ends, and then it's back up top to have a look over the supercharger before this car hits the dyno, and it's safe to say the professionals weren't impressed.
We're stupid.
So we're done underneath, and before it goes on the dyno, we want to make sure that me and Ethan have done this right. So we've pulled the plenum off, and how much stuff have you found that isn't right?
About 80%.
About 80% of what me and Ethan have done is wrong. Nice. We left a vacuum pipe off. We've routed hoses wrong. What else?
Well, yeah, the wiring. Yeah.
So we've got some tidying up to do first, is what you're saying?
Yeah, it won't take long.
Yeah. We tried our best. The instructions weren't the clearest, but you know, we got it on, even if we did do half of it wrong.
So then we went about tidying up all of our mistakes and also fitting a new recirc valve because this one's pretty old. We want to make sure it's going to work perfectly. So we know this new one is going to be spot on, and not only that, it actually looks better as well. So then the final thing to do is fill the car back up with all its fluids, so oils and power steering fluid and coolants, and then it's back on with the wheels, and with those torqued to spec, it's dyno time.
Beat stop.
Oh, I don't
Are you feeling ready?
I don't know.
I'm not feeling ready, but we've got all the fluids in the car now. Azza,
We're ready.
you're on it, big man.
We'll be fine.
You go for first start. Is the key in there?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Boom. Here we go. Tense music. Dun, dun, dun. Can you hear that heartbeat? So first we crank the car over a few times to generate oil pressure. And then it's time to go for that first proper start. Whoa, damn! Goddamn! She sounds good.
That shit
Woo! And she's running, not being lumpy, with no tune on, like Aaron said originally. Rule number one of getting your car tuned is remember to put fuel in it. So don't be a dipstick like me. And if you're having your car tuned, go with some 99. Just had to run off and get some fuel.
So after hours of hard work already in this car, going over some of the maintenance stuff, and also me and Ethan fitting this supercharger to begin with, it's time to see if all of that hard work has finally paid off. So we can clear some space and move some cars out of the way so we can get my E92 M3 on to Aaron's Maha dyno. But everything to do with this car so far has been a risk. Buying it in the first place on 120,000 miles with zero history and then fitting a supercharger to it, I really have put my faith in this car.
Aaron, is this the worst condition car you've ever had in your dyno?
Probably got less bits than most.
But I'm praying underneath this slightly tired and battered body beats a heart of pure gold, because it's about to get some abuse on the dyno. And I've got to thank Aaron Reeve so much for letting us come down and film here, and also helping us out with doing some of the work on this car, and he also wants to help you guys out at home as well. So he's offering you guys £100 off having your rod bearings or a supercharger fitted to your car, and to redeem that all you've got to do is quote Chrisslix when you're contacting them. I'll leave all the information in the description. And now with all the cooling fans in place, we can strap the car down and we can see what this car is going to do.
We are now loaded up onto the dyno, and how sick is this dyno, by the way, just like to say. But it's the moment of truth. Let's see whether this E92 M3 is going to survive or not. I'm giving it a 50-50 chance at this point.
So the first thing to do is flash the bass tune onto the ECU, followed by warming the engine up and the gearbox on the dyno.
How are we looking? Good.
Just getting it ready to log.
I have no idea what he just said.
I know.
And now it's finally time for the first run.
Here we go, big man. Are you ready? Yeah, man. I think it's broke.
Oh no.
You got a misfire on 7 and 8? Oh dear.
Same fault, ignition disabled, 7 and 8.
And we're already running into problems.
Does a dyno run ever go to plan? Probably not. We've got a misfire on cylinders 7 and 8.
It does look dirty, that.
And it was the same faults that we had before when we had the broken coil pack, but this time on the other bank, but we've already changed over all the coil packs. So we're praying just tightening up the earth does the job and makes this car run right. But let's find out.
I know he reached the red line that time, so hopefully that's the problem fixed.
And thankfully it was. The car ran perfectly that time, so we can now do a few more runs and start finessing this tune.
That's the base map. Has she got more?
Yeah,
A lot.
should do. Because if this is the older red injectors, obviously they have a latency of how far they'll go. I'd expect this to do just over 600 on this pulley as well.
Over 600 in a E92 M3, that's a beast. Are you jealousy?
No.
I'm coming for you. This car is now a beast, but I think we've got one more run left in it.
So that's the final run completed. So as the car came down the revs, it was time to finally see what that final power measurement was.
Let's see what she's made. Oh damn!
612.
Oh. 612 horsepower. What a car. What a car. Could you ask for much more out of an M3? That is sick. There is one thing which we need to do with this though, before we finish this video.
Yeah, what we're doing?
Send it! Well, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have, don't forget to hit that like button. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you're not subscribed already. And obviously we're going to have some more content coming on the supercharged M3 soon. And I will catch you then.